Morning everybody, and thank you for joining me again. Now, I've got about an hour to kill. Yeah, about an hour to kill before I set off, so I thought I'd do the introduction from home just for a change. Anyway, I was speaking to the farmer who owns that new permission the other night in the pub, and he says he can clearly remember when he was a child people walking up the other side of the field as though they were on their way up to the church, maybe to go and worship, and on their way back. Now, if they weren't going to the church, I don't know where they were going, because there's not much else up there apart from a very, very tiny little hamlet. Now, there is a public footpath that runs through the field, but he said it's not that one. It's at the far side of the field, and as I said, it's not on any maps. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to be investigating the maybe or supposed footpath. And let's just hope that they've dropped something. Anyway, I'll catch you when I get there on the first decent signal that I get. Okie dokie, bye for now. Right then, well, this is the first target of the day, my friends, about 7 inches deep, and it's just there. And guess what? It's made out of lead. What a surprise. At first I thought it was a lead washer, but it's not. It actually looks, at the moment, like a tiny little spindle whorl. I know they do come in lots of varying sizes and shapes, and some of them are quite tiny. So I think that's what it is, a tiny little spindle whorl. I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't think it's a hemweight, although I suppose it could be. Anyway, we'll clean it up later and see if we can discover anything else about it. Right, into the boxy thing with it, and we'll crack on. Right then, I'm just zigzagging my way along where that footpath used to be. We've got a target down here, coming up at a steady 70. I'm looking at it, and it actually looks quite interesting. So let's have a look and see what we've got. It looks as though it might be the remains of possibly an old key. A very, very old key. Looks as though it's maybe made out of some copper bronze type material. But I think that's what it is. And if it is, it's a lovely little find. Look at that there. I think that is part of a medieval key. I'm as happy as Larry with that. Right, we'll pop it into the boxy thing, and we'll see if we can find anything else on this supposed footpath. Right then everybody, still not far away from where the footpath was. I can feel that wind starting to get up a little bit. The wind turbines that you've seen before, when I first arrived they weren't moving at all. And they've turned round and now they're facing that way and they're going round. So maybe storm, whatever they call it, is on its way. Anyway, I digress once more. We've got another interesting find down here. Well, I think it is anyway. I don't know whether it's part of an old book clasp. Don't really know. Looks as though it might be made out of copper. It's got a nice green patina to it. Literally only about 4 inches deep. Anyway, it's still partially in the clod. So I'll let you have a look at that. And that's it just there, my friends. I don't know whether it's got any sort of design on it. I don't think it has. I'm not entirely sure. But it's an interesting shape. Might turn out to be something very interesting. It might not. Anyway, we'll clean it up later and have a better look. Right, into the box with it, and we'll crack on. Right then, my good friends, well, I hope you can hear me okay, because I've had to put the dead cat on the microphone. Anyway, I'm still going down this old footpath that runs up to the church at the top of the hill. The church itself, alright, the church itself dates back to about 1300, although it goes back historically way before then. In fact, before we have a look at what I've just dug up, let's just take a quick look at the church itself, or part of it anyway. Right then, well, we stood outside at the northern entrance to the church, which, as I said, was built in about 1300. And the church itself stands on top of an old Saxon church. Now obviously the old Saxon church was made out of wood, but when they rebuilt this one, they incorporated part of the design, the old wooden design of the Saxon church, and that's what these pillars are here at either side of the door. These pillars look exactly the same as they would have done in the old Saxon church, but they recreated them in stone, and as I said, incorporated them into this building that you see now that was built in 1300. It's a magnificent church. I'm not going to show you all of it or tell you what it's called for obvious reasons. The fewer people that know the better, because where I'm detecting at the moment is just down there. You've seen the church in the distance before. Anyway, let's just move on and I'll show you the Motte Bailey Castle, which is literally just over there in someone's garden. Right, well, that's the Motte Bailey Castle that you can see in the distance just there, and it literally is in someone's back garden. Their garden finishes here and the graveyard starts here. In fact, there's several gravestones just behind you. Now, the Motte Bailey castles were built after 1066, after the Norman conquest, when William the Conqueror came over here, defeated King Harold and kicked all the Saxons out, including the Vikings. Now, this particular Motte Bailey castle was gifted to someone called Roger de Buseley for services to the crown, as you might say. Exactly what he did, I'm not quite sure. The other interesting thing is that the archaeologists have never excavated this particular Motte Bailey castle. I don't know why, maybe because it stands in someone's private garden. So underneath that there could be all sorts of wonderful artifacts, but until they excavate it we'll never know. Anyway, let's get back to the dig. Anyway, as you can see, the church itself is extremely old, and wouldn't it be nice to have a Motte Bailey castle in your back garden, especially if you were a metal detector. Anyway, back to the find. Only about 5, maybe 6 inches deep. When I first saw it, I thought it was a coin, but I don't think it is. I thought it might have been a Roman coin, but it's not. Truth is, not entirely sure. I don't think it's made out of lead. It could be pewter. I'm saying that because I can see it crumbling on the edges, and pewter does that when it's been in the ground for a very long time. There might be something on it, I don't know. Anyway, it's interesting, if nothing else. I'll let you have a quick look at that before I fill the hole in. And there it is, my friends. Maybe some sort of token, not entirely sure. But it's interesting, and that's all that I'm bothered about. Right, into the boxy thing with it, and we'll crack on a bit further. Right then, everybody, I think we've eventually managed to wheedle a coin out of this field. It's maybe about 5 inches deep, and it's just there. I don't know whether there's going to be anything on it. It may turn out to be a coin of nothingness. It's got a nice green patina to it, and that's about all. You never know, we may get some detail off it once I've put some wax on it, but I'm not holding my breath. Right, we'll pop it into the boxy thing and we'll crack on.
Right then, my good friends. Well, do you remember the little round lead thingy I dug up there? And I wasn't sure whether it was a spindle whorl or maybe a hen weight. Well, this one is definitely a spindle whorl. Just that, my friends. About 5 inches deep. I don't think there's a pattern on it at all, but it's definitely a spindle whorl. And I do like a good spindle whorl. Absolutely cracking little find. Happy as Larry. I tell you something, just for a change, this weather's turning grim. It's clouding over, looks as though it's going to rain, wind's getting stronger. Good job I've got the dead cat on the mic. Anyway, the wind's not going to get any better, so this might be my last signal, and if it is, I'll see you all at home for the roundup. If I find anything else, I'll film it, but I'm going to head off back in that direction towards the car now. I'm getting a bit fed up with this weather again. Anyway, I'll let you have a quick look at this before I fill the hole in. And there it is, my friends, a lovely little spindle whorl. I mean, the other one might be, I don't know, or it might just be a hen weight. Anyway, we'll pop it into the boxy thing, I'll fill the hole in, and I'm going to move in off that direction over there. Right then, everybody, I'm still on my way back to the car because I have really had enough of this. The wind's getting shocking, it's starting to rain again. Anyway, I had to film this because it looks quite a nice find actually. I think it's maybe some sort of horse brass. It's all bent. I've clipped it with the spade and I can see some brass shining through. But I'll try and straighten it out. But it looks really nice actually. I'm really happy with that. It's just cheered me up a bit, that's all. Anyway, I'll let you have a look at that. I know it doesn't look much at the moment, but once it's cleaned up and been straightened out and got some wax on it, it might be a really nice find, that. Right then, I'll pop that in the bag and I'll see you all at home, unless I find anything else.
Right then, here we are. Well, another grim day in the field, but there you go. Now, you often hear me say I've put some big lumps of lead downstairs. Well, this time I thought I'd show you. These are some of the enormous pieces of lead that I dig up in that field. They're absolutely huge. What on earth was going on there, I will never know. Anyway, the other uninteresting stuff, piece of copper sheet, that looks like a keyhole cover, the back off a button, tiny little button, don't know what that is, don't know what that is. That piece of lead looks as though it was made for something, and it looks as though it's broken off just there, but what it was, we'll never know. On the footpath that I was on, well, the footpath according to the farmer, 2p piece, decimal 10p piece. That was the other coin that I dug up that you saw. Can't get anything off it at all. That I thought was going to turn out to be something really interesting. It turns out it's a school badge. It's from Maltby Grammar School, dates back to 1931, and the legend on the bottom, which is obviously in Latin, roughly translates to "I will serve, improve and honour." So there you go. This, I think, is a lovely little find. That is what's left of a medieval key. Can't really put a date on it, but it's obviously extremely old, and I really like that. I think it's a lovely find. That was that. I think the last thing that I dug up was this lovely Queen Victoria Jubilee horse brass. I straightened it out with a blowtorch. The writing on it just says 1837 Jubilee 1887, I think. I will put some photographs at the end of the video, and I've managed to find a horse brass exactly the same as this that's in absolutely pristine condition. So you can have a look at that at the same time. But that is an absolutely cracking find, that. I love that. I used to dig a lot of horse brasses up, but I don't seem to dig many up these days. I don't know why. But that's a wonderful find. The two spindle whorls there, that is a spindle whorl. It's not a hemweight, because I had a look and there's no remnants of a little bar that went across it where it would have been sewn into the hem of a skirt or a dress. I don't suppose they wore skirts then much, did they? No. Anyway, I've done a lot of research on those two spindle whorls, and that one is Roman. It's exactly the same size, same design and everything as very early Roman spindle whorls. Later on, the Romans did start to decorate them quite heavily, which continued through to the medieval period. But that is definitely Roman. As I said, I did a lot of research on these. This spindle whorl is Saxon. You can just see on the inside there's like a square recess just outside the hole in the middle. And the only one I can find on the internet that manages to get anywhere close to being similar is a Saxon spindle whorl. But it does fit in with the history of the area. So that's another wonderful find. But amongst all those things, this is the best find of the day. That is a Pilgrims token, and it's made out of pewter. Now, when the Romans left our shores at the latter part of the 4th century, they stopped making pewter. It fell out of favour, and it didn't come back into favour until the Cistercian monks started making artefacts out of pewter just after about 1098, round about 1100, something like that. They made various artefacts out of pewter, including Pilgrims tokens. And this fits in very nicely with the history of the area, because if there was a pilgrim or a Cistercian monk walking up that footpath towards the church at the top of the hill, he wouldn't have found the church because the church wasn't built until 1300. But if the Cistercian monk had carried on walking over the hill past the church down the other side, he would have arrived at Roche Abbey, which was built in about 1147. So this Pilgrim's token dates to round about 1147, which is absolutely amazing. Absolutely cracking find. Anyway, I'm as happy as Larry with that bugger. Don't find many of those. Anyway, those are the finds, my friends. So if you'll just give me a second to adjust the camera. Right, my good friends, that concludes today's business. Not a bad day finds wise, not a bad day at all. Some very old pieces. And before I forget, Roche Abbey, which is just over the hill from where I live, was actually founded by the Cistercian monks as well. So there you go, another little bit of the puzzle that fits together. Anyway, thanks ever so much for joining me. Do appreciate it. Thank you to all my viewers and subscribers, new and old and new, whichever way you want to say it. I do appreciate it. And I'll catch you all the next time round, my friends. Bye for now.